Welcome to Boatrek Live, Episode 2. Today I'm going to talk about Star Trek Discovery Canon. Now, there's this interesting article from WeGotThisCovered.com. It says Star Trek Discovery showrunner teases more classic characters in Season 2. And the article goes on to say Star Trek Discovery Season 2 looks to be embracing the history of the franchise in some major ways. The most notable is that Ethan Peck's joining the cast as young and bearded Spock. Whoop-de-fucking-do-da-day, he's bearded. Who cares? Also becoming part of the ensemble are Anson Mount's Captain Christopher Pike and Rebecca Romijn's Number 1. But this is it for familiar faces in the new run. But is this it for familiar faces in the new run? Apparently not, according to showrunner Alex Kurtzman. During the Discovery panel at this weekend's New York Comic-Con, one fan asked Kurtzman if any other classic characters would appear in Season 2. The showrunner was surprisingly forthcoming, replying with the one-word answer, yes. He didn't just leave it at that, either, going on to ask the fan whether they liked Talosians. Trek fans who know their stuff will recall that the big-headed alien species first appeared in the original series pilot, The Cage. In many ways, Discovery Season 2 will act as a prequel to that episode, then as Pike, Number 1, and Spock all featured in it as well. What? Hold on a second. Let's go back. He didn't just leave it at that, either, going on to ask the fan whether they liked the Talosians. Trek fans who know their stuff will recall that the big-headed alien species first appeared in the original series pilot, The Cage. In many ways, Discovery Season 2 will act as a prequel to that episode, then as Pike Number 1 and Spock all featured in it as well. All right. This particular article from We Got This Covered has been a source of controversy. Let's take a look at the author's name. Christian Bone. This author, Christian Bone, is, I don't think, a Star Trek fan, because they go down and they assume that The Cage, in many ways, Discovery will act as a prequel to that episode. There's been some confusion online that this article is directly quoting Alex Kurtzman at the New York Comic-Con that occurred a few weeks ago, and he didn't say that. He mentioned Talosians, and he confirmed that in Season 2 they will be going to Talos. He didn't say Talos 4 or 3 or 2 or 1. He just said Talos. Whether Pike has to go back there to somehow get help from the Talosians because he has a history with them, trust me, Alex Kurtzman and the people behind Discovery know that Discovery is not a prequel to The Cage. It takes place between The Cage and TOS. The Cage takes place 2 years before the events of Discovery, and the original series, or the first pilot episode with William Shatner, takes place in 2265, and their 5-year mission lasts until 2270. So anyway, I'll read the rest of this article from this misinformed, or just, innocently ignorant author of this article, that fueled a lot of controversy about how, oh my goodness, the Discovery creators and the producers and they don't even know that when the cage takes place. Ooh, they're so stupid. No, they know, and they're trying their best to do whatever they can with what they're given. I don't know. Anyway, the article goes on to say, set 10 years before TOS, Discovery has the opportunity to fill in the gaps between the cage, which features many cast and stylistic changes from the actual show, and Trek as we know it. Their confusion continues because I think they think Discovery happens, the cage happens, and then TOS happens. And when in fact it's the cage, Discovery, and then TOS. And there's been a lot of speculation about how after the second season of Discovery, if it goes into a third season, that there will be a time jump of a few years for whatever reason. I don't know. The article goes on to say one major way we'll do this is by explaining how Spock goes from more relaxed human character from the pilot to the removed Logican that we know and love. Okay. You don't even need to explain that. Just ignore certain aspects of canon. Oh my God. I didn't just say that, did I? Ignore certain aspects of original Prime canon? Well, some of it doesn't work nowadays. For one thing, the eugenics wars did not take place in the 1990s and beyond that date. And the fact that they use holograms in Discovery is, in my opinion, passé. I think by that time, in like 200 years, like seriously, that I don't know. You want to treat like the TOS period like a period piece and ignore the advances in technology and not extrapolate on what we know now as opposed to what we knew then in the 60s. Okay, I guess. But it's time to move forward with this franchise, and the type of canon that you should take seriously is the core canon of any characters that we would revisit in any subsequent prequel. Like, I didn't think we'd see Spock in Discovery, and now we're going to see Spock in Discovery, so they're going to try to explain how he goes from the more relaxed human character from the pilot to the removed Logican that we know and love. Pike will also be fleshed out a lot more beyond his occasional appearances in TOS, which technically was one appearance that was then split up into 2 episodes. The cage was reformulated into the 2-parter, the Menagerie. And then, like in the 80s, they released the cage on TV in its black and white format. And of course, years later, it got remastered. Following The Truth of Former Captain Gabriel Lorca coming out in Season 1, Pike will jump over from the USS Enterprise to take over as acting captain of the Discovery. Though initially distrustful of him, the crew will apparently be galvanized by the charming hero. Like I said in the last episode, Pike is going to be regarded as this like kind of celebrity. They already have a lot of respect for him. And as I also speculated, I think Saru is going to be kind of jealous. So, like I said, okay, the misconception out there that because of this article from WeGotThisCovered.com, which a YouTuber, Mecha Random, I believe, first spoke out against and kind of spread this unintentional misinformation that the producers or the people behind Discovery somehow think that this is a prequel to The Cage. Like, they're so oblivious that they don't even know, like, what occurs in the timeline. In fact, the producers, Alex Kurtzman, even said not only does he want to match up Canon in season 2, which, is fine, all fine and good. I consider Discovery to be its own thing, the Discovery verse, and whatever. However, they want to match up with Canon is just fine with me. Just as long as it's a good show with a good narrative, great characters, and a great story. And if they're going to do this serialized thing with a few standalones here and there, then do it well. Season 1 was very incoherent in terms of a grand plan for a season of a TV show. You could so tell they did not know what they were doing, and they were kind of hanging on by a thread. And they totally did not know what to do with the Klingon War, and they abandoned that for the Mirror Universe storyline. And then they really wrapped up the whole thing in the end very poorly. But this season, they seem to have a better plan. And hopefully, all the stuff with the Red Angel is not like, it doesn't take over the whole season, that we do get episodic things. Maybe they go to Talos 4, and for some reason, Pike has to reestablish communication with the Talosians. For whatever reason, he needs their help. Maybe Spock is on Talos 4. Maybe Spock is on Saru's home planet. Who knows? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And, the Klingons, last bit of information about how I think Discovery will fit into canon, but also not, and stand alone from everything else, is that the Klingons will remain, in terms of makeup design, these full masked people, but now they have hair. And maybe, judging by what we see of L'Rell in season 2, the makeup will be much more subtle. And pretty much you're going to see the House of Mokai and other houses besides the main ones, the House of Kor and all this. And they're just going to have hair. It's going to be the same makeup design from season 1, but they're going to have hair. And that's not exactly a solution, because you're negating the existence of humanoid aliens we've seen in previous TV series. And I know their idea is, oh, well, that looks like some guys with prosthetics on their foreheads, and they just look like people with cheap alien makeup, which in the 90s was fascinating to see on TV. But nowadays, with, CG and CG augmentation of practical makeup and all this, there's a lot more you can do. And with 3D printing, there's a lot more design elements you can incorporate into already existing aliens in Star Trek. But I think they overdid it with, say, the Andorians and the Tellarites and the Klingons. They kept the Vulcans exactly the way they should be, I guess, because you can't really change them. They look exactly like humans, but with ears. But I hate what they did with the Tellarites. They made them look like kind of boars as opposed to like pigmen. I like the pigman look. I don't know why. The Andorian, a little overdone. Looks pretty much the same, but just a little too much flourish in the makeup. And also that voice augmentation is not that good. And then you have the Klingons, which I can accept as an offshoot of the ones we've already known and come to know. But the fact that they're just retroactively saying, no, these are what these guys look like. And yes, now in season 2 they have hair, but they still have that like overdone, like I mean, it's too much to say that all of them look like this. I don't care if you incorporate the augment virus. It's not canon. I mean, it just doesn't fit in, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt for season 2 that it might fit in. But I'm not counting on it in terms of like seeing proper looking Klingons or Andorians or Tellarites again. That's really furthest from my mind. And even the Spock element doesn't concern me all that much. Like they can do whatever they want differently with a character, or fill in the gaps, or I know it's not going to match up with what a lot of people want, but they have to decide their own thing. And if it turns out he's like a total burnout, he's all like, oh, my logic and emotion are all like clashing and stuff, and I need my adoptive sister's help. Whatever. Just as long as the season and the episodes are structured in a way that is more poignant and coherent than what they did with the first season. If it's on the same level as the first season, which I kind of liked, but I don't want to kind of like the second season. I want to like or really like or love the second season. And if it doesn't live up, then I don't see the point of this show going on. So Canon schmanon, I guess, just as long as you give me a good goddamn show. That should trump all this other tiny superficial stuff. I mean, Trek canon has existed for 50 years, and it's impossible to keep it all together. But as long as you honor the basic main points in terms of style and technology, well, actually not technology, you can update that, but in terms of style and history and mythos, keep that all intact. But anything else is open for change. But my fear is that they focus too much on trying to explain why Spock is not smiling in TOS as opposed to him smiling in the cage and saying the women, and he's weird. Don't need to explain that. In fact, the novel Desperate Hours, Michael Burnham and Spock, while Burnham is aboard the Shenzhou. This is a prequel to Discovery. There's a mission between the Shenzhou, Giorgio, and Captain Pike are trying to save this planet from this ancient alien threat. And Burnham and Spock go through this traumatic experience, and maybe they're using some of that to adapt into season 2, because they're definitely not acknowledging that novel by David Mack, Desperate Hours, as canon. So it'd be interesting to see if also Saru and Number One know each other. They go on a mission in that novel. So if Saru and Number One meet each other in the new season of Discovery and they don't know each other, then that's confirmation that Star Trek Discovery beta canon, whether that's within the novels or graphic novels or anything like that, it doesn't really count, even though they can take inspiration from that and they can use things from it. They can't be handcuffed to it because they already have a hard enough time trying to satisfy longtime fans who consider certain aspects of established canon to be sacred, and adhering to them and explaining them and just satisfying the fans who aren't exactly satisfied right now. So live long and prosper.